What's going on, everyone? The Salamander Man here, and this is going to be the first video in a series in which I document my adventures. Because every time I go out to one of my favorite locations, like a local park or maybe a state forest, there's always a whole bunch of wildlife to see, so many interesting animals to check out, and no matter how common or rare they may be, they're all worth talking about, and I just want to be able to get those things on video and share those things with you guys, and especially my favorite, salamanders. So I'm gonna set out, find a few animals, and hopefully get these things on video and just share those experiences with everyone, and hopefully give everyone a greater appreciation and understanding of these animals. So that said, I'm not going to be giving out any locations as to where I'm at, because it may be obvious to some of the people that may live in the area, but there's a lot of people that will come out to these locations and collect these animals for a profit. And I do not want to contribute to a poor practice such as that. The thing is, in our hobby and other hobbies, we have a responsibility, if we are able to breed our animals, to keep our hobbies going. There's no excuse. Even though every hobby starts somewhere, when you go out and collect animals for a profit, you are damaging the local populations, and there's just no excuse to be doing that at this point. Alright, so with that out of the way, I'm going to set out to find the slimy salamander. And this salamander is a little tough to find, in my experience. They tend to be just a little more secretive than the common redback salamander. But this salamander is not rare, so it's not impossible to find. Just they tend to hide in burrows during the day, so it makes it a little difficult to look for. But we're going to set out to find one, and I'm going to show you one of these really unmistakable, beautiful salamanders. But before I do, there's actually a little diversion right here, and it is a toad, and I'm going to give you guys a close-up of this common but still beautiful animal. Now, there's actually two toads here. One right here, and it's very light in color. And then there's one right over there, and it's much darker in color. Now, this is actually a really great opportunity for me to give you guys a rundown on the differences between some of the most common toads that you can come across, and that is the American toad and the Fowler's toad, which are usually pretty difficult to tell apart to the untrained eye, and some characteristics that I'm about to mention can actually overlap. Okay, so there is actually a third individual a little bit further down to my left, but I'm going to get all three of them on video, and we're going to break this down. Now, these three toads are Fowler's toads, each of them with varying coloration. And coloration can vary even in American toads, so coloration is not a definitive way to tell them apart. But there are a few characteristics that we can use, even though they may overlap sometimes. One of the biggest things we can check are the warts. On the toad's body, there are dark pigmented blotches, and within those blotches there are warts. The Fowler's toad generally has 3 or more warts, as opposed to the American toad that has up to 2 warts within each blotch. And if that's not a good indicator, the Fowler's toad is lacking a bony spur right between the back of the eye and the parotoid gland, which the American toad has. However, there is another surefire way we can tell the difference between the two species, and that is their mating call. And both of these toads do breed during the summer and could potentially hybridize. But the Fowler's toad will actually have a high-pitched nasally call, and the American toad has a high-pitched sort of rolling, whistling call. So we can use the call as a definitive way to tell the difference between these two toads. Alright. So we just got a pretty good look at those Fowler's toads. Even though these animals are pretty common, it's still really always fun to find these animals hopping along the forest floor when you least expect it. So I'm going to keep going, and we're going to look for the slimy salamander. Okay, so I actually just found the slimy salamander, and I found it much quicker than I was expecting, because even though they're not impossible to find, they can be quite difficult since they do tend to hide in burrows. But I did find one already, and not the adult that I was hoping for, but still a very beautiful salamander worthy of discussion. So I'm going to show that to you guys right now and give you guys a really good look. Alright guys, that was the slimy salamander, and it is a lungless salamander, meaning that it breathes through its skin, so its skin is actually very sensitive. Now, this salamander is actually part of a really complex group of nearly identical in terms of appearance subspecies, and proper identification can be quite difficult without really knowing what's in your area. Now, this salamander gets its name from a mucus that it secretes through its skin. And the mucus is actually not really slimy, it's actually sticky, almost like a glue. So once you get it all over your hands, rinsing it off is quite difficult. You kind of have to scrub pretty thoroughly. Now, this individual is still quite young, and it's only just a little over an inch long. They get up to almost 7 inches. Now, if it's a male, once it matures, it will have a mental gland underneath its chin, and this is used to form pheromones towards the female during courtship. So this one's not really the large adult that I was looking for, but still a really beautiful salamander to find. Okay, so I actually just found another slimy salamander here, and this one is also quite young, very small, actually about the same size as the other one that I just found before. And so I'm going to give you guys a close-up of this individual as well. Another really beautiful slimy salamander. Alright, so you guys just got a good look at that second individual. It had some of that debris all over its body because of the sticky glue that it secretes from its body as a defense. And I'm actually on a pretty good streak right now. I said earlier that these guys were kind of difficult to find, but now I've actually just found a third one. So I'm going to give you guys a good look at this one as well. Alright, I'm going to let this little guy right where I found him as well, back underneath this log. And there he goes. So, as a quick tip, whenever you handle any sort of animal, especially an amphibian, since their skin is very sensitive, just make sure you've washed your hands prior to handling them so that they don't get any sort of chemicals or any other sort of dirt that you may have on your hands, because again, their skin being very sensitive, it could affect them in a negative manner. So that said, that was actually 3 slimy salamanders, all of which were quite young, almost nearly the same size, about an inch, a little over an inch, and a wonderful find. Alright guys, that's the video, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a really fun experience for me because I always love coming out here, finding these beautiful animals whenever I go out to my favorite places. And, you know, there's always just a lot to see when you come out to these places, even in your local parks where you may not expect to see some animals, but you really never know what's out there, from these common toads that I found to the more secretive slimy salamander. I didn't really get to find the large adult that I was looking for, but that's okay, because it's still a treat to find these animals, and it's always a fun experience, and you really just never know what you're going to find when you're out here. So at this point, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope that maybe everyone gained a better understanding and appreciation of these wonderful animals that are really all around us if you know where to look. And till next time, I am the Salamander Man. Please like, share, subscribe, comment down below what you thought was your favorite animal, and there's many more videos like this to come.